Hey everyone, we are Kairos Copychats. Thank you so much for tuning in today.
Today's episode will be an interview where we ask our guests about their experience with faith and how it's impacted them.
We believe that everyone's story is powerful and needs to be heard, no matter their background.
We're looking forward to knowing more about our guests and hearing what they have to say, and we hope you're excited to hear from them as well.
So buckle up and let's listen in. What's up, guys? My name is Ryan,
I'm Jared.
and we are Kairos Copychats.
This podcast exists as a safe space for you to bring your questions and rethink faith so you can encounter Jesus personally.
Welcome back to another episode of Kairos Copychats. Today we have another guest with us, our good friend Chris Adcock. Let's go.
Hey.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks for being here, Chris. We're excited to hear from Chris's story. As you all know, we love just having people just share their experience with faith throughout their lives, whether they're Christian or not. And
And it seems like y'all are liking the interviews as well, so we got to keep rolling them out.
we believe stories are powerful and everyone deserves to be seen and heard. And so we can't wait to hear from Chris. So
Awesome. Yeah, glad to be here, guys.
thanks for being here. We, as always, will start with our weekly icebreaker.
Weekly icebreaker. So, what was the last show y'all binged?
That's a good question.
Chris immediately chuckles,
great-
so I'm curious
It's
to
a
know.
great question. Okay, I'm not saying it's a good show, but I'm a nerd at heart, and
There we go.
I love video games.
Oh, you're fitting
And,
right in on this show.
All right, cool beans. And I'm a Tomb Raider fan.
Ooh.
So the Tomb Raider animated series just came out on Netflix. And yeah, it just came out. I think it was like October 12th or something. But
Okay.
anyway, watched it. It was good. It does include stuff from the last 3 games, so you kind of have to know a little bit about what's going on. Otherwise, you have to go online and look it up.
Okay.
So,
Just like Lara
Yeah.
Croft, right?
yeah,
Okay.
Lara Croft, Tomb
Got
Raider. Oh yeah.
What have you thought about the previous movies? I've seen some of the movie
Yeah.
stuff, but are the movies pretty accurate to the lore of the video games at all, or not really?
So the Angelina Jolie movies were not close to the games at all.
Gosh.
So they got the personality of Laura very well.
Okay.
And then a few years ago, the one with Alicia Vikander came out, and she's Academy Award winning actress, and it was actually pretty decent because video game films really struggle with finding the funding. So it's it could have been better, but they had to do what they did with their budget. And that movie was based on the new Lara Croft, which was the new trilogy. So, yeah, it was cool, but it also didn't add a lot of original stuff because it followed the game so well. And I think
Gotcha.
the new show that I binged, it was good. It had a little bit of more of some messages behind it that were a little too obvious. And to me, it's if it's obvious, then you probably didn't, do the best art with it. So, but,
Okay.
Catch your drift.
yeah.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
What about you, Jared?
Man, I'm not really a binge type guy. I love watching an episode or two and letting it sit, just so I can ruminate. It's I'm a fan of when shows release one episode a week.
Mm-hmm.
But my buddy, this was last year. I was up in Canada and I met this guy in Montreal, and he's a massive Star Wars fan. Shout out, Mas. What's up, bud? And we were talking, and he was like, "Oh, so we're talking about the shows, all this stuff, going back and forth." And he was like, "Yo, have you watched Star Wars Rebels?" And I was like, yeah, I haven't really watched that one." And he's like, "You have to." He's like, "You have to watch it." And I was like, "Yeah, but the animation was all right. It looked kind of cartoony." I was like, "It's not really affecting anything." Man, this is pretty fast for me. I went through 4 seasons in a month.
Oh, wow.
I plowed through that stuff. It was so good. The first season, yeah, it's kind of cartoony and stuff, and just a lot of shows. But man, it had me hooked. I was crying at the end. I was literally crying. I do not cry at stuff. The only times I cry are when animals die in movies. But in this,
That's very specific.
it is. Yeah, I'm weird. I was an 8-year-old wreck when I thought Buckbeak died in the third Harry Potter.
Oh my
Yo, it
gosh.
got me so hard.
No.
Thank God.
man.
Thank God. He's good. He's good. But yeah. So Star Wars Rebels, the storytelling just gets ratcheted up. It just had me hooked, and it was like this was storytelling wasted on children. Like, this is too good. But yeah, Star Wars Rebels was the last one that I binge, and now I pace myself for most of my shows.
For sure. Mine was Naruto with my wife. We just finished the main series and Shippuden, which is, we skipped all 40% of the filler episodes for Naruto, but we finished it before we went to Japan because we also went to the Naruto theme park. So I didn't want her to get spoiled with anything that showed up at the theme park before we went there. So we finished the whole series before then, and we like started it last year or something. So impressed we did.
It's so funny because he uses my Crunchyroll account.
Yeah.
So every time I log in, I just see where he's at. I'm like, dang, they're moving through this.
That, right?
Yeah.
We are currently going through Hunter x Hunter now. So
I saw you guys started that one.
it's pretty good.
I was like, if it's not me, it's usually you or Marlon watching something.
Yeah.
I'm very behind on the times. Like I don't
okay.
I don't know what Naruto is. Is that like Dragon Ball Z or something?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
a Japanese show. Yes.
Around the same time. Naruto's a little
It's later.
younger than Dragon Ball Z, but Dragon Ball Z is around the. It's also one of the top animes in Japan. So.
Yeah.
I feel like I saw ads for it, but I don't,
Yeah,
I don't think I
probably.
saw it.
Yeah, no matter what you're into, you've seen something Dragon Ball related.
Yeah.
Even here in the States, like it's too big.
Yeah.
Especially now because a new game just came out. Legit,
wow.
my feed is nothing but sparking zero fights and everything. It's so funny.
True. Oh man.
Alrighty, Chris. Well, thank you again for being on our podcast today. We're just excited to hear your story and to hear what God has done in your life. So, yeah, let's start from the beginning. Tell us more about what life was like growing up in your family and community.
Yeah. Well, when dinosaurs roamed the earth, and no, I'm just kidding. But
You're not that old.
I know, 2 more years and I'll be an elder.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so I just I feel like it's always good to tell people that I'm from Texas, and I don't say that with pride, but it's just like people.
Why
I
not?
know, right? Yeah. Well, because I just like I don't want people. The Texas is the best state, you know. And,
I was about to say that's like the least Texas thing you could say.
I know. But like I guess my personality like does fall in line with kind of like the southern way of thinking. So like at a young age, I was like born in San Antonio, and then because my town that I lived in didn't have a hospital. It was population 2,300, Bernie, Texas, and so yeah, I just started growing up in this small country town with I'm an identical twin, so it was
Right, I forgot you had a twin.
yeah.
That's right. You told me that.
Yeah. And so we were just kind of out in the middle of nowhere, and it's beautiful down there if you ever get to visit. And then that's kind of when some like family drama started when I was a kid, and so we ended up moving to the Dallas area, North Dallas, and I pretty much grew up there. I would say like I called Dallas more home than I do the hill country, but. Yeah, so things were, it's very Southern hospitality there. Like I tell people, if you want like a laid back lifestyle, that's Texas. So you can, you meet people, but let's say if you, like when I was in college, so we go out to like a bar or something and meet other people, and they would say, at the end of the night, you wouldn't say like, oh, well, let's go do something next weekend or something. You would say, hey, what are you doing tomorrow? Why don't we come, like, why don't we have lunch at our house or something like that? Because like everyone has houses there because it's cheaper. But
So sad.
yeah.
So sad.
So, but it's also like, but you're also expected to like host too. So you have these just kind of like homes that are just always welcoming to people and stuff. But it also can be a challenge because it can be a facade in a way. So you have this like perfect home every time you invite people in, but as soon as they leave, so the facade to me is more challenging in Texas because you're like putting on this like perfect picture. And so like early life, like my family, I learned later in life what was actually going on. It was pretty bad, but it was. but I didn't know till I was much older. And then because of that kind of upbringing, I unfortunately followed those steps later in life too. But yeah, I mean, we, as far
Just
as like
portraying something on the outside.
Yeah,
It's like
exactly.
social media before social media.
Pretty much, yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
It's like a keeping up with the Joneses, but like the old school type, not the social media one. And but yeah, I mean, not everything was bad. So there were lots of good things. So yeah, my family, we were like church goers. So we would try to get to church on Sundays, and it was very Southern though. You had like, you got there because if you didn't go to church on Sunday, it wasn't like hey man, I missed you last week. Where were you? It was like, where were you last Sunday?
Oh.
Were you out drinking the night before?
Ooh, got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Kind of getting a picture now.
Societal pressure kind of.
Yeah,
joint.
exactly.
Okay.
So your pictures in like the church registry, and
Oh gosh.
yeah. So yeah, it was different. So yeah, I'm still kind of working on that part of my life. Is like where like my parents at faith wise, like are they Christian? It's tough. So because I never saw the like relational aspect of their beliefs, I just saw the Sunday go to church, and yeah.
Okay.
Are we ready to go down the trauma path? I can't tell. We can keep it lighthearted for a minute.
For sure.
Well, how you said you have an identical twin? Were you guys? I feel like that goes one of two ways. Were you guys close growing up?
So yes, thankfully, I mean, we fall all the time like regular brothers do,
Okay, that just tells me you're healthy.
Yeah.
I got a 4-year older brother.
yeah. But we like, sadly, there's some twins that like hated each other and still aren't like close. But my twin and I have always been close, even in the times that we didn't get along. But
For sure.
actually, we became way closer once we my brother left my high school and went to a different one. And that like, because we weren't in this like cycle of competition, you don't come home and your parents aren't like, your twin brother made A's in his class. Why did you make a B in that class? It's the same teacher. It's the same material,
That's so interesting. Yeah, because like I have brothers who are twins also, and sometimes like they, like I guess more so in high school, one's always trying to make his own identity on his own, not in the shadow of his other twin, because sometimes there's an imbalance still in like even amongst twins.
Yeah, that's kind of one thing I'm wondering, because it's completely outside looking in. Like you are a twin, you've seen it in your home, so I'm like, does that thing happen where it's like they're trying to make their own identity, and it's not like, oh, you like you're a package deal for the rest of your life kind of joint. Like until you get married and literally move 500 miles away, you two are the same kind of thing.
Oh yeah, like I remember, I think every set of twins goes through this phase at an early age. But my mom she's like, I'll never forget the day when one of y'all came in and said, I don't want to wear the same clothes as my brother.
There's just two of everything in her shopping cart.
Yeah. So, yeah, and even in high school when we were wearing different clothes, like we would just like go into each other's rooms and steal each other's clothes since we were the same size.
That's funny.
So easy.
Yeah, we still are. Like I went home for a funeral in April, and like I didn't realize I brought 2 black dress shoes that were both the right foot. And I was at my brother's house. I was like, "You got an extra pair of dress shoes?" He's like, "Oh yeah," and we're the same size. So I was like, "Oh, this works out perfect."
Let's go.
I know.
That works out.
Exactly.
That's good stuff. Do you have like a favorite childhood memory with your twin, or just in general?
Oh, that's a good one. Like I loved fishing with my brother, so we still try and fish every now and then.
Nice.
I'm like, I can catch a fish oddly, like very well. Like I just like feel like I can spot the place, like where to throw the line in, and but I don't know how to get the fish off the hook.
Oh,
so like I just
after you've caught it.
Yeah, like I hand it to him, or like I'm always like messing up the reel or something. So yeah, he was like the more like sporty twin, and I was the nerd, like reading Harry Potter and stuff.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Everything in perfect balance.
Exactly, yes.
All that good stuff.
I was the yin, he was the yang. So.
That's cool.
Man, so you started touching on it, but your family went to church. You're in, the Bible Belt part of the country. What was your like kind of first view of faith or spiritual the church, pretty much. What did that look like for you?
That's a great question. And I feel like a lot of people would be able to relate to this, but my perspective of faith and going to church was this was something that you had to do to show that you were behaving like well. So it was more of like, if you go to church, then you won't become a drug addict. If you go to church, you won't cheat on your spouse. If you go to, if you go to church, you do all these things, it keeps you away from the bad things, which, I mean, it's not likely, but it's possible, right?
Yeah.
So, and I'll never forget, like, there was this like church musical when I was a kid, and it was like, we sang this song called like The Basic Four. I think this song it has to be culturally outdated at this point. But it was called Hans Bronson, the musical. You can look it up on YouTube,
why does that sound familiar?
It does sound familiar.
Yeah. The guy, his name, he was like an Olympian, like Hans Bronson, and he's like German or something. He's like, my name is Hans Bronson. And everyone. So, but yeah, there was a song called like The Basic Four, and it was like, read your Bible every day. Tell of Jesus' love each day. Spend some time with Christian friends, and you're gonna grow in Him. And I was like, that's true, but there's nothing in there that says, come to Jesus with your burdens.
Die to yourself.
Yeah, exactly, right? Yeah, like confess your sins. Like nothing in that, So it was just kind of, and that was my early view. It's kind of like, okay, you gotta hang out with Christian people, and you have to go to church on Sundays, and
everything was a 1-to-1 equation. Equating. Okay,
exactly. So it was a path of self-righteousness. I felt like was kind of like the long-term vision that like I saw when I was young. I'm like, okay, like if you keep going to church and everything, like you're gonna be perfect enough to get into heaven. So
okay,
yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. I feel like I had a little bit of that. I don't think it was because I grew up in SoCal, in LA area. I feel like I had a similar experience, but it wasn't like in my face. Like we didn't have songs that said that, but I think everyone acted that way. Like if you're a Christian and you're going to church, you're doing the thing. Like
you're good.
You are the good moral person. And so I had a very similar experience too, like growing up with a self-righteous attitude. Like I'm a Christian. I'm better than you. I'm not drinking. I'm not partying. I'm not doing X, Y, and Z that people think is bad, So I think I definitely felt that more so than was told it, but same kind of atmosphere that I grew up in, I think.
Yeah. That just makes me think like, this is one of the few times where I'm like, thank God sometimes God just doesn't pull the thorn out of our side. Right. It's just to keep us humble so we don't get like that. Or at least try, because we can still get like that. I know I have to as well.
Exactly.
For sure.
Some of us become blind to the thorn in our side, and that's when it gets dangerous, in your walk of faith is when you one of the things that's really common, I'm sure it's in California, definitely in Texas, is like if you're like alcoholism. So it's like, okay, well, I know I'm not supposed to get drunk on the weekends, but I'm just going to do it every weekend anyway. So it's like, maybe that's a thorn in your side, being like, God's like trying to tell you to struggle with it and not give into it. Because I have a lot of, friends and family that struggle with that. And it's like, okay, but are they really struggling, So yeah, that thorn inside. So got to keep an eye out for it.
For sure. When you're explaining this atmosphere that you grew up in, did you view this atmosphere very positively? Was it more neutral, or was it like negative? You're like, this doesn't feel right.
All right. Let's open that box. Okay, so
we're about 20 minutes in, so here we
go. So for me, so I viewed it as something that was a burden. So I thought and lots of people have heard my testimony, but one of the things that I struggled with, and I still do, was same-sex attraction. So I was thinking I don't like this aspect because this is the one thing in my life that I can't get rid of, that I'm focusing I was I'll make good grades, I'll go to church on Sundays, I'll get baptized, which I did as a kid. I didn't believe it because I didn't think Jesus Christ would actually save me, because there was this burden that I had, and guilt and shame around it. And so I thought, I will try to do everything I can to maybe pave a way of righteousness to where God might be you know what? I'll just overlook that other thing. I'll overlook it right now.
You got the extra credit and the other stuff.
Yeah.
Extra credit.
Exactly. But then you had like the views of like, at the time it's a bit different nowadays. Like I haven't really spoken to like young people to see how, if it's like the shame process is still around it as much. I don't think it is, but it is for some. But like no one talked about it, like period. Like it was kind of like, if you were that way, then like good luck. It's gonna be a fiery eternity for you.
Gosh.
I mean, I watched people get kicked out of my school, my private Christian school that I attended, because of them
wild.
like opening up about that.
Wow.
I won't say the school, but so yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say negative at the time.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's hard.
That's fair.
For sure. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
I feel like, especially in our day and age, it's just the topic just comes up, and the way that, we've briefly mentioned it in previous interviews too, like how Christians respond to the LGBTQ community is a very mixed bag across the nation, and we have not done a good job at what that looks like trying to demonstrate what Jesus's heart is towards just all people, even just at same-sex attraction aside. We haven't done a good job at representing Jesus, period. I think that's something that we got to do a better job at, for sure.
I think the church has come a long way, which is a huge blessing. So especially, like Grace Church, shout out Grace Church.
Let's go.
Like they, with Pastor Jesse, they're, like learning so much about it. Like that's one step, and then educating, and because I think a lot of people, I think the church was more focused on, like there were a couple of verses in the Bible that are like, okay, this is like much worse than other sins, like that, I'm not going to say anything else, but read it again, and you, Jesus forgives all sin. And so, and then just kind of like, they thought it was like a choice. So like when I was in high school, it's like being gay is a choice, not the way you are. So
I used to be like that, actually.
Yeah. And so like people, they assume that assume that being attracted to the same sex is also a choice. And it's not. It's the Grace stands as like a side B community. So, and there's multiple different sides. I feel like a lot of churches are still side X, which is kind of like convert. So it's like, okay, well, and I went through this growing up too, because my parents put me in therapy at like age 4, because they were like, oh, we think he's gay. So
4 is wild.
That's pretty.
Yeah.
That's really early.
Yeah, and I don't blame my parents, because like they didn't know what to do. It's the South, I'm sure there was pressure from like other people, because
gotta keep that image up.
Yeah.
Gosh.
So I grew up and they were saying like, oh, we have to do like boy things or guy things, like trying to get me to play more sports and trying to get me to do all this, and things were taken away from me, like like I wasn't allowed to like read as much for a long time, and I wasn't allowed to draw. But
when was reading deemed gay? What the heck?
I don't know. I don't know, but I know a lot of guys that are like, I don't read, at least in Texas. So
that's that caveat in Texas. Okay.
Yeah, I know. I don't know, but yeah, I mean, I've met a few people here that are like that, but I don't know if, I know why I wasn't allowed to draw. It was because I suck at drawing, so it wasn't. It had nothing to do with sexuality or anything, but I just wasn't allowed to draw.
This is not going on the fridge.
If you're not good at it, don't do it.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I'm not good at drawing anyway. Still to this day.
Oh man.
But handwriting, I got good handwriting.
There you go.
So I make up for it. Yeah.
Oh man. No, I think I don't want to beat a dead horse, but when you talk about like the passage in the Bible people talk about, and like I said, I used to think being gay was a choice, and not through years and different spiritual leaders like shepherding me through questions and outlooks and paradigms that I had, I challenge other people to be like, when did you, like, tell me when you chose your sexuality then. if they chose, then all of us had to choose. So tell me when you did. And I was just like,
Yeah.
that's right. I didn't.
Yeah. Good point. Yeah. Very good point. But I also think my parents like didn't have the answers, and that's okay. Like they were just kind of doing what they thought they were supposed to do. I think there was probably like when I ask about it a long time later in life, I think I was in like college. I think there was a hint of like guilt or shame maybe behind them like telling me, because all they told me was like a very brief like kind of one sentence statement of why I was in therapy at that young, because I was actually back in therapy later. So that's why it came up. And so I think maybe they knew like it wasn't the right thing, but also like I don't want them to ever feel like shame over that. Because I mean, like no one's parents perfect. Like I wouldn't have testimonies if they all were, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, in that situation, it's like, not that I'm trying to like find where the blame goes, but I just think why isn't the church of all people in a more welcoming atmosphere?
Exactly.
It's like that's our job in a sense, is come as you are. Jesus will deal with everything.
Exactly.
So it is like, so from your parents' perspective, that's a tough spot.
Yeah.
But I think the church kind of helped make it a tough spot.
Yeah. And it's a great question, like why that particular thing. So
Yeah,
it's kind of like
totally.
and then if, like let's say if you were like having an affair, cheating on your spouse or something, and be like, oh well, our church offers marriage counseling. Let's say if you were dealing with alcoholism or drug addiction, they'd say like, oh, we have on-site Christian counselors that can help you deal with this. For what like same-sex attracted people were dealing with at the time, there wasn't anything. And it was kind of like if you went to talk about it, the church, like they never did this to me personally, but I had this fear of like they're gonna be like, oh man, there's a church down the road, we recommend that one, Yeah, so it was kind of scary. So it was kind of like, well, what do you do with this? And if you don't like witness like people's recovery, like if you don't see a lot of personal relationship aspects in people with Jesus, then how are you expected to like deal with your own problems that you don't have help to deal with? So
Totally. Do you think throughout this whole process, your parents did everything they could within their own knowledge and power? And like, was your relationship with them like fairly smooth? Or do you have like some rough spots here and there too?
Yeah, definitely rough spots. Yeah. It was not a smooth relationship, but I do think if they had been more forward about like imperfections and things like that, because that was a culture at the time, was like keep what's going on in your own household. Like it doesn't need to. No one at the church needs to hear about it. You don't want to be the person that's on the prayer request list on Sunday at church, because that was a big way of like gossiping. It's still a joke too.
Oh no,
that's not it. That's not it.
That's the opposite of what it's for.
Yeah. It's a joke in the South. It's like, well, I'm gonna put in prayer requests for you, like, and you'd be like,
the underhanded, I'll pray for you.
Like I want to pray. Yeah, I was like, I want to pray for Bill who was out drinking last night and cheated on his wife. Like that would be. The like,
man,
it was, it wasn't like that everywhere, and it wasn't like that extreme, but some people did that. It was kind of like, well, but a lot of people, I would say like prayer could be an excuse for gossip. I do think there were genuine people like praying, like sure. Grandparents, for instance. Like I know, like they were like on their knees at home praying for people. But prayer requests are interesting.
Dang, with that, like, wow. Did you just hit a point where it's just like, all right, I can't wait to move out. I can't wait to get away from this. Like, this is just not for me, clearly. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, thanks for bringing me back to that, too. Yeah, my parents' relationship was really bad. So it was okay, like, one-on-one. So, like, if, it was just me and my mom or just me and my dad, things were okay. But there was a lot of stuff that like I didn't know wasn't normal. So, and one of those things was kind of like emotional abuse that was a little more extreme than what. So, like for instance, and I'm not trying to put my mom and dad out there on like the shame wagon, but like my mom would break things and throw things and break windows and just kind of get really violent and scream and curse. And my brother and I would like hide in our room, like in the corner of the closet, because we were worried that that turmoil was going to come into our room and we were going to be, you know, beaten or yelled at and things like that. And I don't have any memory of ever being hit by my parents like that. Like the good old paddle or switch that happened.
But, switch.
Yeah.
Man.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I use the old school term. I told y'all. I'm almost an elder.
No, I've had that. That ain't that old school. Not my dad didn't think so.
Gosh.
Oh man.
Do you know what it is? Do you know what a switch is?
I don't know what a switch is.
Oh, this
What
is
is
good.
that?
Oh,
man.
educational.
Okay.
All right. So, you want to go?
No, you go for it.
All right,
You
so-
got excited.
So a switch is when, so pretty much it's just a loose gathering of some sticks and twigs, and you put it together, and that's what you spank a kid with.
Kind of.
That's what I got. That's what I had.
Yeah, so it can kind of be like that, but typically what it is it just depends on what's available. So if you have a bush with like sticks or something, or a tree with sticks that you can break off,
Yeah.
you would have to go pick out your own switch. So you try and find like the like flimsiest one
It's horrible.
possible, and then you get hit with it. I learned the hard way because I was really young and our parents hadn't used like switches yet. They were just kind of still in the scream mode. And I was at my grandma's house, who child of the Great Depression, she didn't put up with anything. And
Wow.
she said I did something. I don't remember what it was. Like I wouldn't like come inside after playing or something. And she goes, "Oh, why don't you come over here to the rose garden?" And I said, "Okay." And she goes, "Why don't you pick me out like the best looking rose, like stick, you know, with thorns on it and stuff that you can find?" I said, "Okay, cool." And she's like, "All right, I'll break it off, and you know, don't pinch yourself." And I said, "Okay, here you go." She handed, whack, just hit me in the arm. So it didn't cut me or anything, but I was just like, "Whoa, didn't expect that."
She had you pick out a medieval weapon.
Mm-hmm.
Oh
Yeah.
my goodness.
The betrayal.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh my god.
I know.
Well then.
Yeah. Thanks, Greenville, Texas. So.
Yo, I mean, hey, all that said, I'm glad I got spanked as a kid. I will gladly thank you, Dad. Thank you. That's all I'm gonna say.
That's all I'm gonna say.
Oh man.
All right, that was a tangent. My bad.
No, that's all right. We got time.
So when you left for college, were you? I'm assuming you were excited to leave for college.
Yeah.
I would assume so.
Yeah, it was kind of it was crazy. So because I was on this like self-righteous path, like I didn't even drink before I was 18, never did drugs, anything like that. First 2 weeks of college at Texas Christian University, by the way. I did a lot of things. And I was just kind of like super just kind of like free, and you know I was like, weed, what's that? Like I kind of know what it is, and I heard it's bad, but I kind of want to try it. And like so, I did, you know. And, that was you know, just going through all this like stuff, going to parties. I was under 21 too, and my friends would like, I was so small at the time, like this happens after the age of 30, just so y'all know.
Oh my god.
But I was so small that my friends could like sneak me under their coat into the bar, and then we learned like the guy at this one bar just like didn't even care because he was like probably passed out or on something the whole time. So yeah, we'd get in there, but and yeah, definitely don't want to glorify those times. There's a sad side to this, but so yeah, with all this freedom and stuff, what had happened was my parents' relationship. So my brother and I both moved out of the house to go to college. He went to New Mexico Military Institute, so he was like far away in Roswell, which I don't recommend visiting Roswell. It sounds cool. It's not.
Roswell?
Roswell, New Mexico, Area
Never.
51.
Oh, got it.
Yeah.
Noted.
Yeah, don't go. Just look up YouTube. You're good.
Okay.
But anyway, so my brother's all the way out in Roswell, and then I'm probably like an hour from home, maybe like an hour and 20 minutes. And being out of the house, my parents like finally had to deal with each other.
Oh.
And and because they were pretty much, because of like the whole like, you know, keep a perfect image and things like that, I think they were able to maybe avoid some of the issues that they had by focusing on me and my brother. So, you know, as I'm living this kind of like freedom life, right out of college, my parents' relationship gets like so much worse, like way worse. So then, that sent me into like a whole, that'll probably be like the next question or something, but sent me into like some crazy parts of my life. For me, like I was trying to pretty much keep them together because I also wanted the perfect image. I didn't want to be the kid from a divorced home. Yeah.
I know what that's like, being a kid from a divorced home and wanting to be in that category. I know what that feels like.
Yeah. Wow. I still like sometimes wish my parents weren't divorced. I'm like 38, you know? I was like, it'd be cool if I could come home for Christmas and the whole family's in the same house, you know? But, you know, I learned like it's, you know, not everyone gets that, and that's okay.
Yeah. I remember feeling that way too. Like I shared in my, it's part of my testimony too, is like, I just remember being on the driveway of my home as my parents were like filing for divorce. And I just remember like yelling at God, like angry, like this was happening to me. And I think, I don't remember if I heard it back then, but I had heard back then that even 50% of Christian marriages end in divorce too. I don't know if that's still the case today, but that, you know, begged the question for me then, like, what's the point of being a Christian? Or are my parents actually Christian too? It sounds like we have very similar like thoughts towards our families in that regard.
Yeah, so. I agree. Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of, it was really difficult. So, and I think where I see kind of like the pathways seem a little bit more clear in family matters is with parents who do have personal relationships with Jesus, because like just because you can still get divorced, like people get divorced and still have a personal relationship with Jesus, like it happens. As long as those things I think are communicated well to the children, it's not better, but it gives you kind of a clear idea of what the future could look like.
Right.
And when they don't do that, when they surprise you, you know, on the driveway or something, or like in my case, it was a phone call. Like,
oh gosh.
Yeah, it was. It's you don't like you kind of get like thrown into this like spiral of like I don't know what to do. Like I've lost my only support system because like I wasn't a Christian at the time, so I didn't believe that God was gonna support me through this. Or so I thought like my parents are divorcing, like I have nothing. So
I remember feeling like that too.
Jeez.
Yeah. Where do you feel like this started turning around? Was it in college? Was it post college? Like, when did you start feeling the pull of Jesus personally?
Yeah, great question. So the big moment was August 7th, 2016. So I was driving from a bar. I was not drunk. I had just, you know, went to visit some friends, and I'm crossing a highway that had a traffic light, and I just remember looking to my left and seeing car headlights, and the guy that hit me, T-boned me on my side, was going about 100. There were multiple witnesses that saw the accident.
Oh, sorry. So car headlights like right next to you.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. I'm like, like down the road, there's cars coming, so I won't go. No, you're talking. Oh, okay.
And people asked me like, and the witnesses saw this too. They said, well, why were the headlights up here? So the guy was going up a ramp, and he was going so fast because he was drunk driving that he actually was airborne. So the headlights were actually coming down onto me. So they hit directly behind my head. And I was knocked unconscious for like, I don't know. It's weird when you're going through something like that. Like you don't know how long you were in and out. But I remember feeling the impact, or hearing the engine, seeing the headlights, feeling the impact. I remember coming to. I remember seeing the airbags inflate in slow motion. Like I've never had like a full adrenaline rush. So it was terrifying, but also kind of like, man, Spider-Man. Like, you know, like, I was like, I kind of wish I had that power now.
Oh gosh.
But like, I don't want to make it happen
So
again.
that's the
you know?
secret. You just gotta be on an adrenaline high the whole time.
But yeah, I remember watching the glass just kind of floating around me, and I remember the windshield in front of me looked like the Star Wars, like when they're like going into light speed, like
Yes.
it was just
Oh, yeah.
because what happened was my car was actually spinning like a top. So yeah, which I'm surprised it didn't roll over. That's why I bought another Kia Soul after that. Like people ask me, why do you keep buying? I'm like, because of that accident.
Because I'm alive.
Yeah, exactly.
That's an investment.
Yeah, so there was
Shout out Kia as a plug. Get 'em.
right, yeah. Got the hamster car, woohoo. But yeah, during that moment of the lights, seeing the lights through the windshield, I remember feeling one of the darkest things I've ever felt, and it was a thought. And I remember thinking, like, I want to die. But it was not, it was more of like, put me out of my misery, because it was the most terrifying thing I had ever experienced in my life. And it was just kind of, and I was just spinning, and I just hearing that thought so clearly, and just being like, knowing, like I felt a tugging to blackness, like dark, like nothingness. But then, and that was to my left where the car came from. But to my right, it was like I knew God was there. It was really weird, like not like actually physically present, but like I knew God is like real almost. Like I was like, okay, like God. And so, and then what happened was I got knocked out again because I was spinning so fast. I went into another car and totaled that car as well, because that's how fast I was spinning.
Wow.
And then I came to, and you know, it was long road to recovery, mainly with like cognitive abilities. It took me a while to like be able to talk normal again. So, and so 3 weeks after that accident, I was like, man, that, like, I don't want to go like where like I felt myself going to during that accident. Like I want to go towards like God. And I was like, you know what? I'm tired of dealing with this like thought of I can't be saved. Like, you know, people like me can't be saved. Like, but I also know like there has to like God has to love me. Like there's no way that it's just like some people don't get to be loved from birth. And I was like, I'm tired of people telling me it's a choice. I'm tired of people telling me like certain things. So I went on YouTube and found a sermon. It's really cool to watch. It's called "Is God Anti-Gay" by Sam I'm blank on his last name, Sam something. Sam Albury. And his broadcast came from a church called The Village, which I didn't live far from, where Matt Chandler is the pastor at. And so after watching the sermons, I said, like, I want to go to church. Like, I want to try it out. And then this is where it kind of became like the rescue portion of people's story that everyone talks about, where they're like, I walked into church and it was like everything I needed to hear. It was so weird. Like God was just speaking to me. So I do that 3 sermons. And then I was so excited. I was like I feel something, you know, like I feel like maybe I'm ready to talk to God. And then this is where it gets funny. So I remembered back in the day, like there were weeknight churches, like, and so I said, hey, where's y'all's Wednesday night service? And the person working the front desk, like, thank God for their mistake, but they said, oh, it's here on Wednesday nights at 7:00. I said, okay. Well, I didn't know, because they didn't tell me, or they must have like not realized what I was asking. I walked into the recovery group that night, and it's just funny because like when I've led recovery stuff, like people are like, man, it took me like a month of just pulling up in the parking lot, driving away, and I said, I didn't know I was going into it, so I was like, you know,
That's crazy. Okay.
yeah,
Wow.
So yeah, and then so yeah, that's when I really felt like God calling me, and I felt like I was supposed to be in the right spot, and God just like He made it so easy. Like I thank Him all the time for how easy He made it for me, from being someone who like resented the church, who thought like the church was only meant for certain people, that God only saved certain people. Like as much as I resented God, I was so thankful that He made it just so easy. Got into recovery, got plugged in, met a group of guys. They're like, hey, let's go like, you know, camping. And like, you know, so I just you repair yourself like when you confess. Like sin loses its power when you speak its words. So you like it's like try it sometime. Like if you have like a burden, like everyone has a burden that they don't talk about sometimes, and it's just like
This is the guy I unload all of mine on.
Oh,
So
good.
He knows.
Well, don't you feel like better after you say it, and you're like, wow,
Yep,
it's not as like
absolutely.
So
I love hearing that, like, Jesus personally showed you that warm embrace that you should have been shown all those years.
yeah,
He like slowly undid it by like making it easy for you to come back.
yeah.
I love that.
Well, and I love that I picked the one church that was like, because I remember going to that recovery group the first night, and they were like, "What do you struggle with?" And I was like, "I experience same-sex attraction," like kind of like all nervous. And they're like, "Okay, cool, next person." You know? Yeah.
Next person.
And then like,
Wow.
they're sharing like in these groups and stuff. Like there were, and people were there for all different reasons, but there was like it was split into like a couple of different things. One was drug addiction, which I'd also dealt with, and another was like sexual kind of immorality stuff. So it could have been like porn or anything like that, and. So I was like with that group, and they were like, wow, like, you know, you're not the first person to be here to talk about this. And, you know, we definitely hope you're not like the last, you know, because many more people come to Jesus. And I was shown a love that I had just craved for so long, just from people in general. And it was God's love through these people. So, and it was there all along, but it took that car accident for me to see that, you know?
In this group, was there, or even at the church you just started attending, was there like, you had the group of people, was there anyone who like really took like you under their wing and was like helping you in your walk?
Yeah, absolutely. So it kind of stinks like as far as like how quickly this story goes, but I was only there for a year before I got a job offer in San Diego. So I just started going to church. But yeah, there was my mentor. He just said like, hey man, like, you know, I'm going to be here through all this. And he actually even brought my like steps books that I worked with him. And
What is it?
So it's like steps from Matt Chandler and Michael Snetzer. It's kind of like the 12-step program, but a little bit different. But yeah, we worked through the process, and it's weird when you're working through something like this because you don't realize how far you've come until you look back at the beginning. And so...
Ooh.
Like I wrote, do y'all care if I read like a little?
Go
just,
for
like,
it,
short
please.
part?
Please do.
So when I first started the mentorship program with him, I had to write down like why I was there. This says my goal and commitment, and so I said, I have broken my relationship with God through my sins. I need to accept that He forgives, and I need to focus on repentance rather than atonement because I felt like I needed to be punished for all my sins, and there was no way Jesus could atone for my sins. I said, my spirit is in constant turmoil, and it has weakened me to a point that has made me question my faith. I need help to become spiritually strong and strong enough to accept that Christ forgives me. I'm committing to the next 13 weeks in hopes to relieve my stress and be born new in Christ's love. Because it does take strength to like ask Christ into your heart. And, you know, a lot of people are too scared to do it. They're too scared to take the leap. But it's worth it, you know?
I love this statement of yours because it sounds like you just sound really self-aware at this moment about like what you need. Like, did you know you needed like the things you asked for in this statement? Did you know you needed them, like then, or like did it just flow out?
No, it was partial because my mentor like helped me write this.
Okay,
so,
fair.
Yeah, because that was like kind of one of my crucial breaking points during my recovery process was. And by recovery, I don't mean from like sexual immorality. I mean from like the trauma and stuff like that.
Totally, yeah.
So, like that was something that was like on the surface, but I realized like, you know, there was a lot more going on than I thought. Yeah. But yeah, so we, you know, worked on that. But yeah, my big breakthrough was, I do not want to cry on podcast day, but it was when I finally like fell down to my knees in church one night, or it was the recovery group. And I fell down on my knees and I said, I can't do it by myself. I can't do it by myself anymore. And that was like, applicable to everything. So it was like, you know, I can't do life by myself. You know, I can't work through my trauma by myself. I can't become a Christian like by myself. You know, like that was like, you know, and that's when I finally like just felt my heart like open like to God. I'm like, all right, Jesus, like I want you here, like, not to Carrie Underwood it, but Jesus, take the wheel, you know? So,
Yeah.
Hey, it's cliche because it's true.
exactly. But after I made it through the steps, I was like, okay, that was cool, you know, but I flipped back to the first page and I just like bawled for like hours because I was like, I can't believe like this person like is transformed so quickly as well, like, and it wasn't transformative in like behavior, it was the posture of my heart. Like I was less angry towards my parents, I was less angry towards people in general, because I had a lot of anger issues after the car accident, because I thought like, oh, I'm gonna be the vigilante and try and patrol everyone that's going over the speed limit, changing lanes,
Join the CHP
without using a blinker. Yeah, exactly. You know, and I got some pretty dangerous situations where like if that person had a gun, they probably would have shot me, you know, like I would follow people in the parking lots and yell at them. And everyone's like, wait, Chris, like, nah, you didn't do that. I'm like, oh, I did. Yeah. Yeah, I was like, y'all didn't see that side of me, thankfully. But yeah.
Wow. That is powerful though.
I love hearing that because I get excited when I hear people who walk with Jesus in that way, who understand like it's not do all of these things and then God accepts you. Because trying to change the behaviors before changing the heart posture is like slapping a Band-Aid on a gunshot wound, where it's just not going to work. But like you said, as soon as you like submitted and understood in such a simple sentence, I can't do this on my own in any regard of life, whether it be eternal salvation or even this finite life leading up to it. We can't do it on our own. That's when the floodgates open. That's when, after that, like you said, your anger went away. All the behavior stuff that everyone picks apart and focuses way too much on, including the church, that's when that stuff starts to happen. But it starts with the heart posture. And anytime we read what Jesus talks about in his Sermon on the Mount and how much you've heard it said, don't murder, but if you're even angry with your brother, like how much he just ratchets up how broken we are and where it really starts. And I love people actually take that to heart and walk with Jesus like that. So I love hearing this kind of stuff coming from you.
Yeah. It's kind of like in the Bible verse of you will find the truth and the truth will set you free. So I think it's more of like, because the self-righteous structure is like I put like the Band-Aid on the gunshot wound. It's like, okay, well, I check off this. Like I can tell people I went to church today. I can tell people I went to Bible study this week, you know? But like, and yeah, the word is the truth, but are you, your heart, is it postured in a way towards God that you're hearing the truth and not just seeing it? So like, are you listening to God? So are you hearing him? Like, is he calling? I think one of the like most difficult things through a lot of the recovery process I went through was praying for conviction. So, and talk about truth like that. I had to pray that things I were doing that were wrong would feel wrong. Wow. And that was a struggle because
That's a dangerous prayer.
Yeah.
Let me tell you.
It is, yeah. But it was just tough because I remember talking to my mentor. I said, there are things like I don't feel guilty about drinking a ton, you know? And he said, well, if you don't feel guilty about it, you need to pray for God to put that guilt on your heart, because there's, you know, guilt is good, shame is bad. Like there's
healthy, yeah.
So
Right.
Guilt that leads to repentance.
Exactly, yeah. So that was like, you know, and that was like me actually asking God to make the truth like known to me by saying like, I need you to like light up the shadows, and like if I don't feel it's wrong, I need to like know what's wrong, you know. And he did that.
That's so big. I love that. Because we put so much onus on like, yes, God's given us a conscience and tell us right from wrong, but we have sin that we don't even know about.
Right.
Having that prayer, I've prayed that where it's like, God, I was just talking with someone earlier today about this, where I prayed, God, have my heart break for what breaks yours.
Right.
Not just in my own life, but just in general. I swear I see the world differently now. It's crazy. And it also, it's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
The state of the world is heartbreaking.
Exactly.
Yeah. With that, so from where you started in a, for lack of a better term, superficial kind of church upbringing to really coming into close relationship with the God of the Bible, how has your view of Christianity changed in that time?
I think part of it is that I'm way more forgiving of people in the church, because I also have this perspective of, if you're not like perfect, like you shouldn't be like leading in a church. And I think that is still something that's majorly critiqued within the Christian community, of like, if a pastor messes up, what mess up substitutes whether or not he should step down, and or which one substitutes whether he should step out and look for another church. And so I think my forgiveness, I realized, like, okay, because I used to put people on a pedestal, like, so like I'm kind of like way more forgiving. Like, it's like, hey, they messed up. That's okay. I want to walk with you through the process. There's a author, I forget her name, secular author, but her book is called Radical Candor. And she talks about there's empathy, and you can ruin a sympathy. So it's when you tell people like, I'm so sorry, like so much, but that's all you say. So like, they're like, oh, they keep going down the spiral. Like, oh, well, this week, like I overdosed. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry going through that. And that's all they say.
Nothing past that.
And then you have action, which is just kind of like, you need to get off the streets and stop doing drugs. Well, that's not really going to help someone, like just by telling that. So then compassion is where you have empathy plus action, where it's, I'm sorry that you're going through this. I want you to know that that's not good what you're going through, but I want to be there for you. I want to help you, at least give you some guidance on where to go in the next step of the process. So what I've also seen is a lot more compassion within the church as well. So I see a lot more people being of like, we're sorry you're going through that, but instead of saying like, just we're sorry, or, oh, like, go to rehab, they're like, we love you and we're glad that you're confessing and we want to guide you through the next step of the process.
It's so, like, to me, it sounds like what you're saying is that there is an increase of at least people in the church who are not just saying what you need to do, but they're going to do it with you. They are literally bearing that burden alongside you.
Exactly.
Offering their time, their energy,
Would you say that aspect of Christians that have helped you in your walk, would you say it was like that aspect of like, I'm going to do this with you, that has changed your perspective of Christianity?
I think that's been a big part of it. Yeah. I think also them being open about what they're going through is the other big thing, because you can have someone that's just like always telling you like, here's how I live my perfect life. Or you can have someone that says, I have problems too. Let's help each other, and you do have to kind of like gauge, like, okay, is this person in an area where of their life, are they trying to tell me that they can't help me because they're struggling through something really bad as well? And you have to look out for that, because if you're down, you want to be like Elijah in the cave, like you want like God to be there, like, and just you and God, like, he's giving you food, he's helping you put that armor of God back on. But if you're already down, it's like, okay, should you go fight right away? It's a tough act to balance. But yeah, I think, people in general, like one of the things I'll never forget. So when I first started going to church and I went to a home group, I'm not gonna say their name, but there was this couple they were older than me, and they seemed like they were just like so perfect, like, oh, our son's on the lacrosse team and all this stuff. And I had like, this is me just getting back to church, so I'm still like very cautious, because my views of the church were still the same of like and then we just started talking, and then this person just like broke down and said, we've been trying to have a baby for a long time, and we can't, or we couldn't. And so like I started hating God because of that. And I was like, whoa. I was like, that lady just said like she hated God. Like, what? She went through a phase like that? Like,
no way.
I was like, I can't believe that just came out of her mouth. Like, like, where's the lightning and thunder? So yeah, I was just kind of like, okay, like I'm super intrigued by these people. And the leader of that home group, I'm still very good friends with to this day. So yeah,
that's
definitely changed my perspective of people.
I think that's so good to hear. Just not faking it, and I think there's this misconception even in Christian life that like we have to put on a facade whenever we go to church. We can't show our emotions. It's all about praying so that these bad things don't happen to us, and not being angry at God, because that's not right to be angry at God. But there's that I guess invitation of lament and earnestness when it comes to the things that we are struggling with, and knowing that God is a God who, at least the God of the Bible, he invites that. He can handle our problems, and he wants to hear those things. And that's that attitude of like wanting to know what you're going through, that sounds like what the people who you were surrounded with, that's what they offered to you. It was like they wanted to hear from you. They truly wanted to know who you were.
Yeah.
Am I hearing that right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And Jesus modeled that like first. Like he subjected himself to humanity, to the human condition, to not only conquer sin, but to relate to us. Like, okay, I understand. Like I, more than anyone, understand what it's like to be tempted in this way, to go through a harsh life. But I've overcome even that, and you have hope in me. That's why he's the perfect priest. Mm-hmm. And it's like in that same model, we have to walk with other people. And that's kind of everybody, all of us, whoever's in our life. Like we walk with them. Like this isn't for those people over there or the church leaders over here. It's like, no, every single person who says, I follow Jesus, there's someone in your life. Because I used to, I'm like, I currently live at home with my family. I got my brother. I was split a room with my brother, and I've wanted to, move out and be gone for sure. I'm not in a place to do it right now, but for various reasons. But I've wanted that for so long. I've prayed about it, all this stuff, and that kind of realization hit me. It's just like, okay, what am I doing with the people who are around me right now? Like a lot of my close friends, like Ryan's the closest. Some of my other friends just, got different stages of life. Some one's up in Orange County. I don't get to see them a ton. But I'm with my family every single day. I'm just like, how am I walking in life with them every day? Like, am I? And I wasn't. So I'm like, it's been really cool, because not only have I seen like answered prayer in my brother's life, but he's been a lot more Christ curious. Like he grew up in the same home. We both grew up Christian and stuff. He identifies as a Christian. But now I'm seeing like the wheels turning, and we'll have Bible studies. And it was funny, we had this other conversation. He's like, yeah, I'm just like, I'm trying to just believe the Bible and just throw away all my questions. I'm like, nope. Give me your questions. Like, please do. Like, we want this. Like, the Bible can handle your questions. And I definitely want to talk about that. So we just been like, our Bible studies have just been like, yo, what's your questions? Like, the next time we're gonna talk about cussing, which is gonna be a fun one.
Oh, good.
But it's just.
I kind of want to know about that one.
That'll be another episode. But it's been like, there's people in all of our lives that we can walk with, because we're all dealing with the same kind of life. Like you're talking about inviting the lament. There's a whole book called Lamentations. Jesus says, in this life you'll have troubles. Like there's no ifs, ands, or buts about getting away from it. It's just relying on each other and Christ. Yeah. And we all have someone who we can rely on and who needs us for them to rely on.
Yeah, absolutely.
What do you think, based on your life story, where Jesus has brought you from and what he's bringing you towards, what do you think God is calling you to now? What do you think his purpose is for you now?
Yeah, that's a great question, because sometimes it's like changing, but I feel like learning a couple of things over the last few years about like spiritual gifts and things like that. I learned like my spiritual gift is a prophet.
Ooh,
so,
I can sense that.
Yeah, which I didn't think, because like Pastor Scott Laughlin was like, oh, they're the mean ones, and I was like, what? He did. He said that at membership weekend, and
my dog.
Yeah, and I remember walking into like the group, like, cause like, like 200 people there were all like, Pastor Shepherd, and then like I walk into this like small room with like 4 other guys and like Pastor Jesse, and I'm like, Jesse, did you know I was prophet? And he's like, I did, son. I did. No, I'm just kidding. He didn't say that. But he was like, I did. And so I found
You must
out,
be prophet too.
yeah. And I think it's because of like all like the kind of like research and like bringing people in, like especially like with the LGBTQ community and things like that. I feel like I am kind of like patrolling the church to make sure that they are like following what the book says and being biblically sound and spiritually sound. It's like, okay, well, and just because someone is living this lifestyle, like, are they able to like feel welcome when they come to church? So
Real quick, what's the difference in your mind between biblically sound and spiritually sound? I'm curious.
So biblically means like you know the Bible and that you're using the Bible correctly and not like prosperity gospel, things like that, you know. Spiritually sound means you believe what you're reading. So do you believe what you're reading, and are you praying with God? Are you because we all go through seasons like where maybe we're not in prayer as much as we want to be, or we're not reading our Bibles as much as we want to be, but our heart is still on Jesus.
Yeah.
So that's more the spiritually sound, because you can know the Bible, like, but be on the self-righteous path, you know. Like I could recite Bible verses from high school, but I wasn't a Christian, you know.
Okay.
So,
Alrighty, fair.
yeah.
It's good.
Yeah.
I think I've heard it. Orthodoxy is knowing what you know. Orthopraxy is walking it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's good. Good point.
What do you? How do you define being a prophet? I know you mentioned something about like keeping the church accountable. Like, flesh out what that means, being a prophet in the Christian sphere.
Yeah, it's weird because I don't want to like glorify a gift over Jesus, but I'll just kind of say what I think sometimes. It's kind of funny. So kind of like being a detective and just kind of like you have to investigate things before you make judgments. Like, okay, well, you know, why is the church doing things this way? You know, what is this person like, you know, individually, like how are they communicating with people, and not like trying to be a snitch, but like understanding that person, like, are they right with Jesus? So it's kind of weird to say that, but it's also interesting because like my degree, like I wanted to, like my degree was in forensic anthropology, and
that makes sense. That all makes sense now.
And like I loved writing, and I loved reading murder mysteries, and you know, hopefully we don't have one of those at Grace. But,
let's hope not.
Yeah,
we don't get a whodunit in a church.
Exactly. So, but yeah, so it was kind of like I'm like, okay, well, was God preparing me for this like moment of being like, hey, here's like one of the reasons that I not need you, but want you here in churches is to, because I don't want to like throw anyone under the bus, but I will just say there have been times when I'll get a phone call from someone like up that's like, hey, we have this like person that is like really struggling a lot. Can you call them Chris? So we have this new member that's doing this. Can you call them Chris? And I mean, that's cool, but I'm like, okay, all right, well, like I'm gonna get down the dirt and do my detective work. And, you know, so, and I like to investigate claims. You know, people are like, you know, do you believe in like, you know, exorcisms and things like that? And it's like, I don't know. Let me dig up everything I can. You know. So, yeah.
Okay. So what would be your biggest message to people to help them understand who you are as a new creation in Christ?
Yeah. I would say I'm not unique. I'm a child of God, and I hope that everyone can just like understand that they're children of God. That my story like is just it belongs to Jesus. It's not my story. It's for him to have. And so like sometimes I get scared to talk about it, and then I just have to remind myself like, you know, so why do I get persecuted? Like James chapter 1, consider it pure joy, my brothers, whenever you face trials of many kinds, for you know the testing of your faith develops perseverance. So I'm just like, okay, well, let's take that in doses, please.
Doses,
but, yeah,
not
like,
all at once.
Yeah. So, yeah. So I just like me as like a person, and like what I want people to hear is that. No matter where you're at, no matter how far you think you've drifted away from Jesus, you can come back. You can come back to Jesus. You can come back to church. You can come back to community. And the cool part is when you come back, you may not know it, but you're going to bring some people with you. And that's why, like, for me, it was just like when I was sharing my story in these recovery groups, I mean, so many people have come forward and been like, you're the first person I've ever heard talk about like this or XYZ, you know.
Mm-hmm.
There's lots of like everyone's story has like that portion of it where someone can be like, I relate to this person, because there's going to be people that can't relate to my story. That's okay. No judgment. But yeah, that's kind of thing is like, I'm not unique. Your sin is not unique. To quote, like, sorry, this is a total side note real quick, but to quote one of my favorite video games, Tomb Raider Survivor is Born. There was a quote before I was a Christian when I played this game that I was obsessed with, and she says in the game, "The extraordinary is not what you, or the extraordinary is not who you are; it's what you do." And then I was like, no. After a Christian, the extraordinary is that like I'm a child of God. Like it's not what I do here on earth. I mean, yeah, it's important, but it's like I'm never going to achieve something greater than what Christ achieved for us. And I think a lot of people think they can. And I think it's I can't remember if it's Nehemiah or Habakkuk. I always get them confused, but the one where it's like the city that was like, oh, we're so perfect, we don't need God anymore, we're happy, we have everything we want, we're so strong. God was like, boom, destroyed.
Boom, destroyed.
Yeah. And he warned them. He to give them a heads up. So, but yeah, so I think like paying, like the message for people too is like, believe like you're special to God. Like your sins are not unique. And don't believe that you're so unique that you don't need God.
That's the title of the episode right there. That's good.
Man. All right.
That's powerful. Wow.
That's a mic drop. So thanks for joining us. This was fun. Thank you so much, Chris, for talking with us and sharing. And man,
awesome. Thank y'all.
There's some good stuff to reflect on, but I just love that Jesus has just that magnetic personality that he will do whatever he can to bring you home. And it's cool. Like, even though, like, you know, we have all these things that have happened, like, in our past, seeing, like, how much in love you are with Jesus now and how that's transformed you. Yeah. It's cool to hear, like, the before and the after. And thank you for sharing that and being vulnerable with us on this podcast. And, yeah, can't wait to have you back on for some other topics.
Yes. Awesome. Yeah. Thank you. I'm excited.
Alrighty. Thank you guys for tuning in to a Chris Adcock story. We will see you on the next one.
Later.
Peace.